72 hours. That's how long Zara Bennett had been living with a lie that destroyed everything she'd spent 5 years building. 72 hours since Marcus Whitfield, the VP of Operations at Luxe Derme Cosmetics, stole her revolutionary skin cream formula and claimed it as his own. 72 hours since he stood in front of the board of directors and painted her as an unstable employee who fabricated claims when passed over for promotion. 72 hours of watching her name get dragged through industry forums, watching colleagues she trusted turn their backs, watching her dream of becoming the first Black woman to lead product development at a Fortune 500 cosmetics company die in real time. But Zara didn't know that someone had been watching everything. Someone who controlled half the corporate real estate in New York. Someone whose legitimate business empire was built on a foundation most people pretended not to see. Someone who looked at Zara Bennett's brilliance and made a decision that would change both their lives forever. Some women pray for justice. Zara was about to meet a man who delivered it with his bare hands. Before we show you how one stolen formula led to the downfall of an entire corporate regime, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling us, have you ever had your work stolen? Because this story is about power, revenge, and what happens when the most dangerous man in New York decides you're worth destroying the world for. The Luxe Derme Corporation wasn't just another beauty company. It was a $3 billion empire built on innovation, marketing, and secrets that would make your skin crawl. And somewhere on the 19th floor, a 25-year-old chemist was about to learn that brilliance without protection is just an opportunity for theft. Zara Bennett had always believed that hard work and talent would be enough. 5 years at Luxe Derme Cosmetics had taught her the formula for success in corporate America. Arrive early, leave late, make yourself indispensable, and maybe, just maybe, they'd see past the color of your skin and recognize your genius. She was 25 years old, Black American, 5'4", with rich mahogany skin that glowed from years of testing her own formulations. Natural hair she wore in twist-outs and protective styles depending on the season, and eyes that could identify chemical compounds the way musicians identify notes. She'd graduated top of her class from Howard University with a degree in cosmetic chemistry, and she'd spent the last 2 years developing something revolutionary. The Melanin Shield project, a skincare line specifically formulated for melanin-rich skin that addressed hyperpigmentation, sun damage, and aging without the harsh chemicals that dominated the market. She'd tested it on herself, her mother, her aunties, her sorors from Delta Sigma Theta. The results were undeniable. This wasn't just another product. This was a cultural shift in an industry that had ignored Black women for decades. Zara had submitted her complete formulation to Marcus Whitfield 3 weeks ago. Marcus was the VP of Operations, 47 years old, white, Princeton-educated, with the kind of smile that made you think he was on your side right up until he stabbed you in the back. He'd been her mentor for 2 years, the one who'd encouraged her to think bigger, dream larger, take risks. "This is extraordinary work, Zara," Marcus had said, reviewing her 200-page proposal. "Revolutionary, really. Give me 2 weeks to present this to the executive team. I think you're looking at a promotion. Director of Product Innovation. First Black woman in that role at Luxe Derme." Zara had believed him. She'd trusted him. She'd even celebrated with her girls that weekend, popping bottles at a rooftop bar in Brooklyn, talking about glass ceilings and breaking barriers, and how she was about to change the game. That was 3 weeks ago. 2 days ago, Marcus Whitfield had called an emergency board meeting. Zara wasn't invited. She'd found out about it from Jessica, one of the junior chemists who actually liked her. "Girl, something big is happening upstairs. Marcus has the entire executive team in the boardroom. He's presenting some major new product lines." Zara's stomach had dropped. She'd rushed upstairs,
knocked on the boardroom door, been turned away by security. Through the glass walls, she'd seen her charts, her formulas, her research projected on the screen, and Marcus Whitfield standing at the head of the table presenting her work as his own. She'd tried to get in. Security had physically removed her from the executive floor. Marcus looked directly at her through the glass, smiled, and continued his presentation. That's when Zara learned the most important lesson about corporate America. Brilliance without power is just theft waiting to happen. But Marcus Whitfield had made one critical mistake. He'd stolen from a woman who worked in a building owned by Kang Dae-Jung, and Kang Dae-Jung didn't tolerate thieves. While Zara was being escorted out by security, 14 floors above her, a man was watching everything unfold on security monitors, and he was about to make a phone call that would end Marcus Whitfield's career before sunrise.
Kang Dae-Jung didn't look like a gangster. At 42 years old, Korean-American, born in Busan but raised in Koreatown, Manhattan, he looked exactly like what his business cards claimed, CEO of KDJ Holdings, one of the largest commercial real estate firms on the East Coast. He was 6'2", moved with the kind of controlled precision that came from years of taekwondo and judo, and wore custom suits from a tailor in Seoul who'd been dressing his family for 3 generations. His black hair was always perfectly styled, his face sharp and handsome in a way that made people instinctively respect him. But what everyone noticed were the tattoos, traditional Korean designs that started at his wrists and disappeared under his clothes. A dragon that coiled up his right arm, Hanja characters across his shoulders that spelled out legacy and blood. Most people in Manhattan's business world knew the sanitized version of Kang Dae-Jung's story. Self-made millionaire who'd built an empire from nothing, philanthropist who donated millions to Korean cultural centers and immigrant support organizations, businessman who transformed struggling neighborhoods into thriving commercial districts. What they pretended not to know was that Kang Dae-Jung was the undisputed head of the Baek-ho faction, one of the most powerful Korean organized crime syndicates on the East Coast. His empire was built on legitimate business, yes, but it was protected by a network that controlled everything from construction unions to shipping routes to political connections that went straight to City Hall. Kang Dae-Jung owned 23 commercial buildings in Manhattan. The Lux Derme Corporation headquarters was one of them, and part of his business model was simple. He monitored everything that happened in his properties, not just for security, for opportunity. 6 months ago, he'd been reviewing routine security footage when he'd noticed her, a young black woman working late in the Lux Derme research lab, surrounded by beakers and compounds and notebooks filled with formulas. She worked differently than everyone else. Where others cut corners, she was meticulous. Where others socialized, she focused. Where others looked for shortcuts, she dove deeper. Kang had pulled her employee file out of curiosity. Zara Bennett, 25, cosmetic chemist, Howard University graduate. 5 years at Lux Derme with stellar performance reviews, but no promotions. He'd watched her over the months, not in a creepy way, but in the way a chess master watches a brilliant player on a board full of amateurs. She reminded him of himself at that age, brilliant, hungry, naive enough to think merit mattered more than power. 2 days ago, when Marcus Whitfield had presented Zara's work as his own, Kang had been watching the board meeting on his private security feed. He'd seen Zara try to enter, seen security remove her, saw Marcus smile. And Kang Dae-Jung had made a decision. He'd built his empire protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. Zara Bennett didn't know it yet, but she'd just gained the most dangerous ally in New York. He picked up his phone and made a call. "Dante, I need a complete background on Marcus Whitfield, VP at Lux Derme. Everything. Financial records, personal life, every skeleton in every closet.
I want it by morning. What are we looking for, boss? Kang's voice was ice. Leverage. I'm about to teach someone that stealing in my building has consequences. While Kang was building his case, Zara was about to discover that Marcus hadn't just stolen her formula, he'd planted evidence that would destroy her entire career. 24 hours after the board meeting, Zara received an email that would either break her or forge her into something stronger. And in a penthouse office overlooking Central Park, Kang Dae-Jung was already 10 steps ahead.
The email arrived at 6:47 a.m. on a Thursday. Zara was in her tiny apartment in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, already awake because she hadn't really slept. She'd spent the night going through every employment law website she could find, trying to figure out if she had any legal recourse against Marcus. The answer seemed to be, not without proof, money for a lawyer, and the willingness to be blacklisted from the entire cosmetics industry. Her phone buzzed. Email from HR Director Patricia Townsend. Subject line, mandatory meeting, 9 a.m. today. Zara's hands shook as she opened it. Miss Bennett, your presence is required in Conference Room B at 9 a.m. today to discuss serious allegations regarding misconduct and theft of company property. Please bring your badge and any company-issued materials. Legal counsel will be present. This meeting is mandatory, and failure to attend will result in immediate termination. Patricia Townsend, Director of Human Resources. Theft of company property. They were accusing her of stealing her own work. Zara read the email 3 times, her mind racing. This was the play. Marcus hadn't just stolen her formula, he'd flipped the narrative. Now she was the thief. She was the problem employee. She was the one who'd be fired, blacklisted, destroyed. She called her best friend, Amara, who answered on the second ring despite the early hour. Girl, what's wrong? Zara's voice cracked. They're setting me up, Amara. They're going to fire me and make it look like I stole from them. That's literally insane. You created that formula. I know that, you know that, but I don't have proof. All my research was done on company computers in the company lab using company resources. On paper, everything belongs to Luxter May, and Marcus has been there 15 years. He has relationships with every executive. I'm just the black girl from Brooklyn who's getting too big for her britches. There was a pause. Then Amara said quietly, You need a lawyer, Z. I can't afford a lawyer. I've got $3,000 in savings and $40,000 in student loans. I'm about to be unemployed with a reputation that says I'm a thief. Who's going to hire me after this? Zara could hear her own mother's voice in her head. Baby, sometimes the world ain't fair. Sometimes you just gotta hold your head up and survive. But surviving felt like giving up. Surviving meant Marcus Whitfield won. She showed up to the meeting at 8:59 a.m., wearing her best suit, natural hair slicked back into a professional bun, carrying a folder with copies of every email, every note, every piece of documentation she had. It wasn't enough, but it was something. Conference Room B was packed. Patricia Townsend from HR, Robert Chen, the company's lead counsel, Marcus Whitfield, looking calm and sympathetic, and 2 executives Zara had never met, clearly brought in to make this official. Patricia started. Miss Bennett, we've received troubling reports that you've been accessing confidential company files without authorization, taking proprietary formulas home, and making threats against senior management when confronted about this behavior. Zara's voice was steady despite the rage. That's a lie. Every single word of that is a lie. Marcus leaned forward, his expression concerned. Zara, I know this is difficult, but we have evidence. Your computer logs show you accessing restricted files.
Your keycard shows you in the lab after hours dozens of times without proper authorization, and multiple employees have come forward saying you've been acting erratically, making accusations. Because you stole my formula, Zara's voice rose. The Melanin Shield project is my work. I spent 2 years developing it. I gave it to you 3 weeks ago, and now you're presenting it as yours. Robert Chen, the lawyer, spoke. Miss Bennett, under your employment contract, any work created using company resources belongs to Lux Derme. Even if you developed this formula, which Mr. Whitfield disputes, it would still be company property. The trap was perfect, legal, airtight, devastating. Zara was about to be escorted out of the building when the conference room door opened and Kang Dae-Jung walked in like he owned the place, because technically he did. In corporate America, power isn't about who's right, it's about who's got the biggest weapon. And Zara Bennett was about to discover that she'd just been handed a nuclear option. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees when Kang Dae-Jung entered. He was flanked by 2 men in dark suits who looked like they could bend steel with their bare hands, and a woman in business attire carrying a leather portfolio that screamed, "Expensive legal team." Patricia Townsend stood immediately. "Excuse me, this is a private personnel meeting. You can't—" "I'm Kang Dae-Jung. I own this building." His voice was quiet, controlled, absolutely commanding. "Which means I can go wherever I want. Sit down." It wasn't a request. Patricia sat. Kang's dark eyes swept the room, cataloging every person, every document, every power dynamic. Then he looked at Zara. Their eyes met for the first time, and Zara felt something shift in the air. He looked at her like she was the only person in the room who mattered. "Miss Bennett, I apologize for interrupting. Please continue your defense." Marcus recovered first, his smile slipping back into place. "Mr. Kang, with all respect, this is an internal Lux Derme matter. Nothing that happens in my building is just your matter." Kang pulled out a chair, sat down, nodded to the woman with the portfolio. "This is attorney Grace Lim from Lim and Associates. She'll be representing Miss Bennett in this proceeding. Grace?" Grace Lim opened her portfolio with the precision of a surgeon. "Good morning. I've reviewed the allegations against my client. They're baseless, retaliatory, and constitute illegal workplace discrimination. But more interestingly, I've also reviewed Mr. Whitfield's recent patent application for what he's calling the Radiance Revolution skincare line." Marcus went pale. Grace continued. "The formulation in Mr. Whitfield's patent application is 97% identical to research Miss Bennett submitted to him 3 weeks ago, research that includes her personal notes, her testing methodologies, and her grandmother's home remedy for hyperpigmentation that's been in her family for 3 generations. She slid a document across the table. "This is a sworn affidavit from Dr. Helen Torres at Howard University, Miss Bennett's former professor, confirming that Zara Bennett presented this exact formula in her senior thesis 4 years ago. This is a copy of that thesis, which is publicly available in the university library. And this," she placed another document down, "is a copyright registration for Miss Bennett's research, filed 2 years ago when she first began the Melanin Shield project." The room was dead silent. Grace smiled. It wasn't friendly. "So let's be clear about what's happening here. Marcus Whitfield stole proprietary research from Miss Bennett, attempted to patent it under his own name, and when she objected, conspired with HR to fabricate theft allegations to cover his own crime. That's not just employment misconduct, that's intellectual property theft, fraud, and conspiracy." Robert Chen, the company lawyer, Looked like he wanted to disappear. We were not aware of... You didn't ask. You assumed the black woman was lying and the white VP was telling the truth. That's not ignorance, that's negligence. He stood, buttoned his suit jacket, and looked directly at Marcus Whitfield. You have 24 hours to resign, return all stolen intellectual property to Miss Bennett, and sign a statement admitting what you did. If you don't, I will personally ensure that every business connection you have, every board you sit on, every country club membership you enjoy disappears. I will make you unhireable in this city. Marcus found his voice. You can't do that. You don't have that kind of power. Kang's smile was colder than winter in Seoul. I own 40% of the commercial real estate in Manhattan. I have connections in every industry, every political office, every organization that matters in this city. You're a middle manager with an inflated title who just committed a felony in my building. Watch me. He turned to Zara. Miss Bennett, you're coming with me. We have things to discuss. Zara followed Kang Dae-Jung out of that conference room with no idea that accepting his help meant entering a world where justice came with a price, and protection looked a lot like possession. The elevator ride to the 35th floor was silent, electric, and terrifying. Zara was about to learn that there are men who save you, and then there are men who own you. Sometimes they're the same person.
Kang's private office occupied the entire 35th floor of the building, the penthouse suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, minimalist Korean design mixed with corporate power, art on the walls that probably cost more than Zara's entire education. He gestured to a chair across from his desk. Sit. Zara sat, her mind still spinning from what had just happened. I don't understand. Why did you help me? You don't even know me. Kang poured 2 glasses of water from a crystal pitcher, slid one across the desk to her. I've been watching you for 6 months, Miss Bennett. I know exactly who you are. The words should have sounded creepy, but coming from him, they sounded like fact, clinical, honest. You arrive at 6 a.m. every day, he continued. You work through lunch. You leave after 8 p.m. most nights. You've developed a revolutionary skincare line that could shift the entire industry towards serving communities that have been ignored for decades. You're brilliant, dedicated, and you have the kind of integrity that gets you destroyed in corporate America. Zara swallowed hard. So you helped me because talent without protection is just an opportunity for predators, and I don't tolerate theft in my buildings. He leaned back in his chair, studying her. But also because I recognize ambition when I see it. You don't just want to make products, Miss Bennett. You want to build an empire. I wanted to be director of product innovation at Luxter May, Zara said quietly. That's dead now. Good. That was too small. Kang opened a drawer, pulled out a folder, slid it across the desk. I'm offering you something better. I want to fund your own company. The Melanin Shield project becomes yours entirely. You own 100% of the intellectual property. I provide the capital, the infrastructure, the distribution network, the protection. Zara opened the folder. Inside was a term sheet from KDJ Ventures. Investment capital, $5 million. Equity split, 70% Zara Bennett, 30% KDJ Holdings. Her hands shook. I can't accept this. I don't even know you. Yes, you can, and you will. His voice was certain, absolute. Because the alternative is watching Marcus Whitfield get a slap on the wrist, maybe a demotion, while your formula makes Luxter May billions and you're blacklisted from the industry. Is that what you want? No. The word came out fierce. I want him to pay for what he did. Kang's smile was sharp. Then we have the same goal. Accept my offer. build your company, and I promise you Marcus Whitfield will pay for every lie he told, every opportunity he stole, every moment of humiliation he put you through. Zara looked at the term sheet, then at Kang Dae-Jung, this powerful, dangerous man who'd appeared out of nowhere like some kind of avenging angel. Why? Why do you care this much? For the first time, something flickered in his eyes, something almost vulnerable. Because I know what it's like to have everything stolen from you by people who think they're untouchable, and I built my empire to make sure I could protect people who deserve better. He stood, extended his hand. Work with me, Zara Bennett. Let me help you build something that destroys the people who tried to destroy you. Let me make them pay. Zara looked at his hand. This was a crossroads. Accept and enter a world she didn't fully understand. Refuse and fight Marcus Whitfield alone with no resources, no allies, no chance of winning. She thought about her grandmother, who'd created that hyperpigmentation remedy in her kitchen in Alabama because white dermatologists wouldn't treat black skin. She thought about every black woman who'd been ignored, dismissed, stolen from by an industry that didn't see them as human. Zara stood, shook his hand. I want them to pay, every single one of them. Kang's grip was firm, warm, and possessive. Then it's done. You work for me now, and I protect what's mine. The words should have been a warning. Instead, they felt like a promise. What Zara didn't know was that accepting Kang's help meant accepting him, and Kang Dae-Jung didn't do anything halfway. Over the next 3 weeks, Zara Bennett learned that building an empire with the Korean Mafia wasn't just about business. It was about loyalty, power, and the blurred line between protection and possession.
The transformation happened faster than Zara could process. Within 72 hours of signing Kang's term sheet, she had a fully equipped lab in a building in Soho, a team of 3 chemists poached from major competitors, a marketing consultant who'd launched $2 billion beauty brands, and a legal team that made Grace Lim look friendly. Kang had also assigned her a personal security detail. 2 men who looked like they could stop bullets with their bare hands followed her everywhere. It's standard, Kang had said when she protested. You're a valuable asset now. People who steal once will try again. The first week was surreal. Zara worked 18-hour days perfecting formulations, building her brand identity, preparing for a launch that Kang promised would reshape the industry. She barely saw him, though she felt his presence in everything. The state-of-the-art equipment that appeared overnight, the connections that opened doors she'd never dreamed of accessing, the whispers in the beauty industry that something major was coming. But on the 8th day, Kang summoned her to his office at midnight. It's late, she protested over the phone. Can't this wait until morning? No, come now. Then he'd hung up. When Zara arrived at the penthouse office, Kang was standing by the windows, looking out at the Manhattan skyline. He'd shed his suit jacket, rolled up his sleeves, revealing the intricate tattoos that covered his forearms. The dragon on his right arm seemed to move in the city lights. We have a problem, he said without turning around. Zara's stomach dropped. What kind of problem? Marcus Whitfield didn't resign. He's fighting back. He's hired his own lawyers, filed a countersuit claiming you breached your employment contract, and he's spreading rumors in the industry that I'm funding your company as part of an organized crime operation. Is he wrong? Kang turned to face her, his expression unreadable. Does it matter? Yes, Zara said firmly. It matters to me. I need to know what I'm involved in. He crossed the room, stopped close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and clean and distinctly him. I told you, I own commercial real estate, I invest in promising ventures, everything I do is legal. But I also have connections that most businessmen don't. I solve problems that police can't or won't touch. I protect my investments with methods that wouldn't appear in a Harvard Business School textbook. His voice dropped. I told you I would make Marcus Whitfield pay. Did you think I meant with just lawyers and press releases? Zara's heart hammered. What are you going to do to him? Nothing he doesn't deserve. Nothing illegal. Kang's hand came up, his fingers brushing her cheek so gently it felt like a question. But I need to know you trust me, because what happens next, the launch, the revenge, the empire we're building, it only works if you're all in. This was the real choice. The term sheet had been business. This was personal. Zara met his eyes, those dark, intense eyes that had watched her for 6 months before she even knew he existed. I trust you. It was a lie and a truth at the same time. She didn't fully trust him, but she trusted that he wanted Marcus destroyed as much as she did, and sometimes that's enough. Kang smiled, slow and dangerous. Good, because tomorrow Marcus Whitfield is going to learn what happens when you steal from someone under my protection. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. Within seconds, Zara's phone buzzed. She looked down at an email notification, then another, then another. Her inbox was flooded with messages. What is this? Every journalist, every industry watchdog, every regulatory agency that oversees Lux Derme, they're all receiving anonymous tips about Marcus Whitfield's intellectual property theft, his pattern of stealing from junior researchers, and his financial irregularities. By morning, he'll be radioactive. Zara scrolled through the emails, seeing CCs to the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the FDA, the Federal Trade Commission. This is going to destroy him. Yes, it is. Kang stepped back, his expression hardening back into the businessman she'd first met. You wanted justice, Zara. This is what justice looks like when you have power. But Marcus Whitfield had one card left to play, and it involved destroying Zara's reputation in a way that lawyers couldn't fix. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but what Zara and Kang didn't know was that Marcus had been preparing his own revenge, and it was about to get very, very hot.
The hit piece dropped at 6 a.m. on a Monday, 2 days before Zara's planned product launch. It wasn't in a legitimate publication. It was on a gossip blog called Corporate Tea, known for unverified rumors and salacious takedowns. But it spread like wildfire. Headline: Beauty startup founder Zara Bennett sleeping her way to success with married Korean mob boss? The article was vicious. It claimed Zara hadn't earned her funding through merit, but through a sexual relationship with Kang Dae-Jung, who the article described as a known organized crime figure with ties to Korean gangs. It included anonymous sources claiming they'd seen Zara leaving Kang's penthouse at midnight, that she'd been given preferential treatment because she was his mistress, that the entire Melanin Shield project was just money laundering for mob operations. There were doctored photos of Zara entering Kang's building late at night, captions implying scandal, quotes from former Lux Derme employees saying Zara had always been ambitious in ways that made people uncomfortable and had used her looks to manipulate senior management. It was a character assassination, weaponized misogyny and racism wrapped in plausible deniability. Zara read it on her phone while getting ready for a press event, and her entire body went cold. This was the playbook. When you can't beat a black woman with facts, you destroy her reputation, make her a Jezebel, a gold digger, a woman who succeeded through sex instead of skill. She called Kang immediately. He answered on the first ring. I saw it. Marcus did this. Her voice shook with rage. This is his retaliation. I know. I'm already handling it. How? How do you handle this, Kang? The article is everywhere. It's trending on Twitter. My launch is in 2 days, and now everyone thinks I'm your prostitute. There was a pause. Then Kang said quietly, Come to my office, now. When Zara arrived, Kang was in full war mode. His office was filled with people. Grace Lim, his head of security, Dante, a crisis PR consultant, and several men Zara didn't recognize, but who radiated danger.
Kang dismissed everyone except Grace. Then he turned to Zara, and for the first time, she saw something like regret in his eyes. This is my fault. I made you visible. I put a target on your back. No, Marcus did this. Zara's hands clenched into fists. This is his retaliation. He couldn't beat me with lawyers, so he's using the oldest weapon in the book. Make me a whore. Discredit everything I've accomplished. Make it about sex instead of science. We're going to sue Corporate T for defamation. We'll get a retraction, damages, but that takes months. My launch is in 48 hours. By then, this story will have defined me. Every article about my company will mention mob ties and scandal. Everything I've built will be tainted. Kang crossed the room, stood in front of her. Then we change the narrative. We don't deny the relationship. We own it. Zara stared at him. What are you talking about? There is no relationship. There could be. His voice was low, intense. If we announce that we are together, publicly, officially, then the story stops being about scandal and starts being about a powerful couple building something revolutionary. We control the narrative instead of letting Marcus control it. That's insane. We barely know each other. I've known you for 6 months. You've worked with me for 3 weeks. In my world, that's a lifetime. He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. This isn't just strategy, Zara. I've wanted you since the first time I saw you in that lab. I've watched you work, watched you fight, watched you refuse to break even when Marcus was stealing your dreams. You're brilliant and fierce, and you deserve someone who will burn the world down to protect you. Zara's breath caught. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious. His hand cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. Let me protect you. Let me claim you publicly so that no one ever question your worth again. Let me make you mine, for real. This was madness. A fake relationship to counter bad press was one thing, but Kang wasn't proposing a fake. He was proposing real. Possession. Ownership. The kind of intensity that either saved you or consumed you. Zara thought about Marcus Whitfield smiling while he stole her work, about Patricia Townsend dismissing her complaints, about every door that had been slammed in her face because she was a black woman in an industry built for white men. And she thought about Kang, who'd appeared like an avenging angel and given her power she'd never dreamed of having. If I say yes, what does that mean? What are you really asking for? Kang's eyes burned. Everything. Your trust, your loyalty, your presence in my life. I'm not asking you to be my mistress, Zara. I'm asking you to be mine, completely. Zara was about to answer when Dante burst into the office with news that would change everything. Marcus Whitfield had just been arrested, and the charges were much worse than intellectual property theft. Some men think they're untouchable. Marcus Whitfield was about to learn that when you steal from someone under the protection of the Korean Mafia, untouchable becomes a fantasy.
Dante's voice was urgent. Boss, the NYPD just arrested Marcus Whitfield at Lux Derme headquarters. They're bringing him in on fraud charges, conspiracy, and, he glanced at Zara, assault of a former employee from 2019. Kang's expression didn't change, but Zara saw his jaw tighten with satisfaction. Which detective? Chen, Organized Crime Unit. Good. He owes me a favor. Kang turned to Zara. Marcus Whitfield isn't just a thief. He's a predator. When I started investigating him 3 weeks ago, I found 5 other women he'd stolen from, harassed, or assaulted over the past decade. One was willing to testify if she had protection. I gave her protection. Zara's mind reeled. You've been building a case against him this entire time? I told you I would make him pay. Kang's voice was cold, final. I meant it. Grace Lim was already on her phone, pulling up news feeds. It's breaking everywhere. Lux Derme released a statement saying they're shocked and cooperating fully with authorities. Marcus's lawyer is claiming the charges are politically motivated.
Let him claim whatever he wants. By tomorrow, every major outlet will have the full story. The women he victimized, the research he stole, the pattern of abuse Lux Dermay covered up for years because his uncle sat on the board. Zara felt something shift in her chest. This wasn't just revenge. This was justice. Real, documented, legal justice. What about his uncle, the board member? Kang's smile was sharp. Richard Whitfield resigned from Lux Dermay board this morning. Seems his personal finances showed some concerning irregularities. Tax fraud, embezzlement from a charity he managed. The IRS takes that very seriously. You found all of this in 3 weeks? I told you, I have connections. He dismissed Dante and Grace with a nod, leaving him and Zara alone. The corporate T article will be retracted by tonight. The blogger will issue a public apology. Marcus Whitfield's life as he knew it is over. Your reputation is intact. Your launch will proceed as planned. Zara should have felt triumphant. Instead, she felt overwhelmed. You didn't need me to say yes to your offer. You were already destroying him. Yes. So why ask me to be yours? Why make it personal? Kang moved closer, his presence filling the space between them. Destroying your enemies was always the plan, but keeping you, that's what I want. The question you were about to answer before Dante interrupted, I'm still waiting for it. Zara looked at this man who'd dismantled her enemy piece by piece, who'd built her an empire, who was offering her protection that looked like possession, and asking for surrender that felt like power. You scare me, she said honestly. Good. I should. I'm not a safe man, Zara. His hand slid to the back of her neck, fingers tangling in her hair. But I'm your man if you'll have me. I'll protect you. I'll fight for you. I'll destroy anyone who tries to hurt you. And I'll demand all of you in return. Your trust, your loyalty, your presence in my world. What if I can't give you everything? Then we'll negotiate. His lips curved. I'm a businessman after all. But understand this. I don't share. I don't do it casually. If you say yes to me, you're mine. Completely. Every instinct screamed that this was too much, too fast, too intense. But Zara had spent her whole life playing it safe, following rules, trusting systems that betrayed her. Maybe it was time to trust something dangerous instead. Yes. The word came out steady, sure. I'm yours. Kang kissed her then, claiming her mouth with the same absolute certainty he brought to everything else. It wasn't gentle. It was possession and promise, and the sealing of a deal that had nothing to do with business and everything to do with the fire that had been building between them since that first moment in the conference room. When he pulled back, his eyes were molten. Your launch is in 2 days. After that, we're making this official, public. Everyone in this city will know you belong to me. And you belong to me, Zara countered, her voice stronger than she felt. Something flickered in Kang's eyes. Surprise, respect, desire. Yes, I belong to you too. It was the first time she'd seen him yield anything to anyone. The launch of Melanin Shield would either make Zara a mogul or destroy everything she'd built. And Marcus Whitfield, even from a jail cell, had one last card to play. They say success is the best revenge, but on the morning of the Melanin Shield launch, Zara was about to learn that success also makes you a target for people you never knew were watching.
The launch event was held at a historic venue in Harlem. Deliberate, symbolic, perfect. Zara had insisted on Harlem because this wasn't just about building a beauty company. It was about honoring the Black women who'd been ignored by the industry for generations. Her grandmother, who'd mixed shea butter and oils in her kitchen. Her mother, who'd taught her that Black skin wasn't a problem to fix, but a canvas to celebrate. Every auntie, every sister, every woman who'd been told she was beautiful for a Black girl. The venue was packed,
Beauty editors, influencers, dermatologists, and hundreds of Black women who'd heard about Melanin Shield through word of mouth and wanted to witness history. Zara stood backstage, wearing a custom suit in deep emerald green that made her brown skin glow, her natural hair styled in an elegant twist-out, looking every inch the CEO she'd become. Kang appeared beside her, adjusting his tie. He'd insisted on being there, not as the silent investor, but as her public partner. The press had already caught wind of their relationship through carefully planted stories that framed them as a power couple, the brilliant chemist and the business mogul building an empire together. Nervous? He asked. Terrified, Zara admitted. What if no one cares? What if Marcus was right and I'm nobody? Kang turned her to face him, his hands on her shoulders. You're about to walk out there and change an industry. You're about to prove that a 25-year-old Black woman from Brooklyn can build something that billion-dollar corporations couldn't. Marcus Whitfield is in jail facing 15 years. You've already won. Then why does it feel like it's just beginning? Because it is. This is your beginning, Zara. Not the end of one story, but the start of your legacy. He kissed her forehead, and then Zara walked onto the stage to thunderous applause. Her speech was powerful, personal, and political. She talked about her grandmother's remedies, about being dismissed by an industry that didn't see Black women as consumers worth serving, about Marcus Whitfield stealing her work and what it represented, the centuries of Black innovation that had been stolen, erased, claimed by others. Melanin Shield isn't just about skincare, Zara said, her voice ringing through the venue. It's about visibility. It's about claiming our space in industries that were built without us. It's about Black women owning our brilliance, our beauty, our economic power. And it's about making sure that the next generation of Black girls doesn't have to fight the same battles we fought. The applause was deafening. The product sold out in 47 minutes. Pre-orders crashed the website twice. By the next morning, Melanin Shield had been featured in Vogue, Allure, and the New York Times. Zara Bennett was being called a visionary, a disruptor, the future of beauty. But success comes with a price. 3 days after the launch, Zara received a letter from Marcus Whitfield's lawyer. He was offering to make a deal. He'd admit to everything, serve his time quietly, and never speak publicly about Lux Derme or Zara again. In exchange, he wanted one thing: for Zara to testify that Kang Dae-Jung had not coerced or intimidated him in any way. It was a trap. If Zara testified, she'd be forced to answer questions about Kang's methods, his connections, his organization. The prosecution could use her testimony to investigate Kang for racketeering, witness tampering, and organized crime. Marcus couldn't hurt Zara anymore, but he could hurt Kang, and that was exactly what he planned to do. Zara sat in Kang's office, the letter in her hands, her heart pounding. He's trying to take you down. If I testify, they'll investigate you. They'll dig into your businesses, your connections. Marcus knows he's going to prison either way. This is his final revenge, destroying you for destroying him. Kang read the letter calmly, then set it aside. So don't testify. If I don't, Marcus withdraws his plea deal. The trial drags on for years. Every horrible detail becomes public. My company becomes associated with a scandal. Everything we built gets tainted. Then we let it get tainted. I don't care about perception, Zara. I care about protecting you. But I care about protecting you too. Her voice broke. You gave me everything. My company, my revenge, my future. I can't let you go to prison because of me. Kang stood, pulled her into his arms. I'm not going to prison. Marcus Whitfield's desperation doesn't touch me.
I've survived gang wars, federal investigations, corporate espionage. This is nothing. But you don't know that. I know this. He tilted her chin up, forcing her to meet his eyes. I told you I would protect you. That doesn't change because some broken man tries one last power play. You don't testify. Marcus takes his deal or goes to trial. Either way, he loses, and we continue building our empire. What if they come after you anyway? Let them. His smile was cold, confident. I've been preparing for that my entire life. 6 months later, Marcus Whitfield pleaded guilty to fraud, theft, and assault charges without a trial. He was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Richard Whitfield, his uncle, faced separate charges for tax fraud and embezzlement. Lux Dermay underwent a complete restructuring, fired half their executive team, and hired their first black woman VP, though it was too little, too late to repair their reputation. Melanin Shield became a $50 million company in its first year. Zara hired 30 employees, mostly women of color, and opened a research facility in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, bringing jobs and opportunity to her own community. She was featured on Forbes 30 Under 30, invited to speak at Harvard Business School, and became the face of a new generation of black entrepreneurs who refused to play by old rules. But success came with shadows. The federal investigation into Kang's businesses continued for 8 months before quietly closing, with no charges filed, a testament to how carefully he'd built his empire and how many powerful people owed him favors. Still, the scrutiny changed things. Kang became more careful, more protective, more aware that his world and Zara's were on a collision course. One night, sitting in his penthouse overlooking Manhattan, Zara asked the question that had been haunting her. Do you ever regret it? Help me? Everything that came after? Kang pulled her closer, his arm around her shoulders. Never. You're the best investment I ever made. I'm not an investment. No, you're my partner, my equal, the woman who made me believe that empire building isn't just about power, it's about creating something that lasts beyond us. Zara leaned into him, feeling safe and dangerous at the same time. We're not normal couple. Normal is overrated. We're empire couple, and empires aren't built by people who play it safe. The view from the penthouse stretched out before them, Manhattan glittering like a jewel, the city they'd conquered together in their own ways. Zara thought about the scared 25-year-old chemist she'd been 6 months earlier, the woman who thought hard work and talent would be enough. She knew better now. The world didn't reward merit, it rewarded power, and sometimes the greatest power came from finding someone who would fight for you the way you fought for yourself. I love you, she said quietly. It was the first time either of them had said it. Kang's hand tightened on hers. I know. I've known since the day you told me you wanted them to pay. That fire in your eyes, I recognized it because I have it too. He turned to look at her, his expression intense. I love you too, Zara Bennett. You're the only person I've ever met who matches my ambition, my ruthlessness, my refusal to accept anything less than everything. They kissed then, slow and deep, a promise and a claim all at once. The ending wasn't perfect. Kang's world would always carry shadows that Zara had to navigate. Her success would always invite scrutiny that could touch him. They would spend their lives balancing legitimate empires with the underground connections that had built it. But they would do it together, two people who'd found each other in the wreckage of injustice and built something powerful from the ashes. Some love stories are about healing. This one was about conquest. And as Zara Bennett looked out at the city that had tried to break her and failed, she realized something profound. She'd come to New York 5 years ago as a dreamer. She was leaving tonight as a queen.
the Melanin Shield empire would grow. Zara would launch 3 more product lines, open stores in 15 cities, and become one of the youngest black female billionaires in America. Kang would continue building his empire, legitimate and otherwise, always with Zara by his side as the only person he trusted completely. They would face investigations, competitors, people who couldn't understand how a black woman and a Korean gangster built an empire together. But they would face it all with the same certainty they'd brought to that first handshake in Kang's office. Some love stories are about healing. This one was about conquest. And as Zara Bennett looked out at the city that had tried to break her and failed, she realized something profound. She'd come to New York 5 years ago as a dreamer. She was leaving tonight as a queen. Drop a comment and tell us, would you accept help from someone dangerous if it meant getting justice? Hit subscribe because this is what happens when brilliance meets power and protection looks like love. This is the story of Zara Bennett and Kang Dae-Jung, the chemist and the kingpin who proved that empires aren't built by playing it safe. They're built by people who refuse to break.